In this video, we discuss tips for effective negotiating in the seller's market that you really ought to know, why they're important to understand, and what it all means to you. All that and way more. Stay tuned. This is Vasilios, and welcome to another video. Hey YouTube, this seller's market has been making it increasingly difficult to get a deal done. It gives buyers less room for negotiations, and with plenty of buyers and not enough properties on the current market, this leaves sellers to be much more selective on which deal they accept. So today's video is about how to best negotiate best for yourself in a seller's market. Where do we start? Make an offer with a few or zero contingencies. If this were a buyer's market, you can get away with adding contingencies to your offers, and you would still be in the negotiation game. However, in this seller's market, it's a completely different game and a completely different level. Sellers are less likely to accept an offer with many or let alone one contingency. They'll just move on to the next offer. Hey, if you want to learn more about selling your home in a seller's market, check out this video up here in the card. Just kidding, over here. If you're truly serious about buying in this market, you want to waive as many of these contingencies as possible. What are the offers that are most easily getting accepted? Yep, you guessed it right, paying cash. This avoids the lender in the transaction and also speeds up the process. The National Association of Realtors states that 9% of all contracts were terminated between March and May 2020. 21% of those were due to financing issues. Now, for some of you, this isn't feasible, so the next negotiating tip is don't expect the seller to give in a lot, or if any. Keep in mind, the seller has the upper hand and is probably looking at many offers on the table, so you cannot be too demanding or too picky. Now, the contrary to this, if you want to make your offer more attractive, you may offer to pay a portion of the seller's closing costs or fees. This will make your offer cream of the crop. It will surely make your offer rise to the top of their pile for sure. Hey, what's going on? My name is Vasilios. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here and you want to get the latest actionable tips from a local realtor that'll actually save you time, save you money, and result in a smooth real estate deal, start by subscribing and hit the bell notifications so you don't miss anything. And if you like the video, then, like the video. Now, back to it. When it comes to the sellers fixing this or that in the home, for example, replacing a roof or fixing something that isn't in the category of safety, health, or structure, it's advisable that you just don't include this. It's probably best to advise to just build that cost into your actual offer, within reason, of course. The less you muddy the water, the better in these cases. This is called making a clean offer. Making several offers. I know it sounds crazy, but the more offers you submit, the better chances you have at getting the home that you really want. So don't be afraid to submit multiple offers. Perhaps the home has been on the market for 2 days and say their open house tomorrow is going to get rained out, so they won't have as many eyes as anticipated on that property. A good point of attack would be a slightly lower offer than your highest bid that you want to make it live for a day or two and see if that offer gets accepted. And if not, have a follow-up offer at your highest bid on day 3. You may have to wait for the right home and timing for this tactic to work, but let me tell you, it works. This also means you can submit offers on multiple properties at once. However, beware though, you need to build contingencies into your offers if you're set on making more than one offer at once. You can even connect one of your contingencies on the acceptance by another seller of another offer. Your other offers will then become null and void. However, seek guidance from a seasoned agent or attorney on the laws of this practice in your state. Another important thing to note is that credit availability has shrunk. Now, this will affect a number of buyers on the market. Don't get me wrong, this is not a buyer's market, but with fewer buyers that are qualified for a mortgage, the competition might have just waned a touch. There are a few occasions, even in this seller's market, that the buyer actually has a little bit of room for negotiations. Here's what to look for. How long has the house been on the market? The longer listed, the better chances you have at striking a deal. If it's only been on the market for 10 to 14 days or 2 weeks, sellers are still expecting a clean, competitive offer, most times above asking price. Now, for the homes that have maybe sat just a little bit longer than that, the greed of many sellers in this market may have diminished. At this point, I would advise that a lower than asking price may be in order. If a home has been on the market for several weeks or months, at that point, you do have more leeway to further negotiate the price down and chop down the list price. It's always important to find out what the seller really wants in the transaction. It's advisable to play towards the seller's needs and wants, and this could help provide you with helpful information for further and future negotiations. A common tactic is just to allow the seller to do all the talking. You may be surprised at what you're able to pick up and use for negotiating. When you find a piece of information that they need and it's not super important to you, you then play towards that need and begin to craft your offer and build your negotiations around this. One example of this would be to agree to rent the seller their house for 30 days after purchasing, so they have time on their side to find and purchase their next home. The exchange for this would be a slight discount to their asking price. Now in this market, many times you need to just put your emotions aside. Knowing how much a home is worth to you is crucial. That doesn't necessarily mean just focusing on the asking price. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers without actually thinking about the value of the home to you. It's important to think about the absolute maximum amount you're willing to pay without having endless regret about the transaction. An important question to ask yourself would be, would you feel comfortable about losing a home that goes for $5,000 above asking price? Well, what if it was 10 or 15? What number would be comfortable to you? That's the worth of the house to you, not necessarily the proper price, however. The truth amongst bidding wars during the sales market is that agents are successful about 20% of the time. When agents are put in multiple offer situations, generally speaking, the person who wants the home the most will get it. When you find your financial boundaries, really only then can you begin to build your negotiating arsenal. Now this quote is really for your agent, not necessarily for you. However, as John F. Kennedy said, never negotiate out of fear, but never be afraid to negotiate. Here are a few more negotiating tips. Have your agent include an escalation clause to make your offers more competitive. Escalation clauses states that when another offer exceeds your original offer price, that your clause will automatically ratchet up in a certain predefined increments up to a certain point. For example, let's say you offered $500,000 for a home and I offered $500,000 for the same home, but with an escalation clause in $5,000 increments up to $510,000. And say there was another offer at $505,000. What would happen is your offer and my offer start off at the same. The third offer is greater than the first in mine, technically. However, when the escalation clause kicks in, it'll bump up first to $505,000 to meet the third, which puts us even. But next, because my cap is $510,000, it'll ratchet up another $5,000 to $510,000, and that's giving you, well, me, the winning bid. This clause is essentially a safety net, so you don't overpay more than what you really want to spend. But it's done in the most cost-effective way possible, without going back and forth over and over again. You effectively lay all your cards on the table. A strategy in negotiation should be not to treat it like going to war. We're trying to find a solution where both parties can win. Learn to take the issues and try to direct your focus on the solutions instead of making it into an adversarial encounter. This can go a long way. Next up, you always want to use market value instead of asking price as your starting point. You need to stay in the game, especially in this market. Too low of a lowball offer will knock you out immediately. They say location, location, location. Well, for a buyer, it's data, data, data. Let the data drive the decisions and the actual negotiations. Gather information and use it to your advantage. The key is to have more information on this property and the surrounding market than your transaction counterpart. When we talk data on the property, we're talking about digging up as much information as you can humanly possible about the property. Look at the public records, see if it's been expired, if the listing has ever been canceled. What does the mortgage note say on the property? How much equity is still in the property? These are all factors that can add ammo to your negotiating arsenal. Days on market plays a huge role in where to start your negotiations. You can even try social stalking the seller. No, not that kind of stalking. We're just trying to see if they're investors, maybe look them up on LinkedIn or other platforms to see what the driving force behind that sale is. You always want to ask for the motivation of the sale. Many times they'll actually tell you. So once you have your data, your facts, and actual motivation for selling, you can begin now to craft the offer. Now, for the agent, a key part to negotiating is actually describing to the buyer through the data how much negotiating power your clients actually have. Hey guys, if there's anything in the world you want to talk about or have a question, reach out anytime, no obligation, really. 508-821-8835. It could be about weather, cars, racing, real estate, whatever. Now, if you like this video, then check out these at the top of your screen. And if you need a guy like me, I have a guy like me's info in the description below. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.